So we are here to demonstrate the original Duscholux synthesizer, also known as Arturia Minibrute 2, that I am selling in Barcelona. I will try to go pretty fast through most of the functions so you can see it's working. Let's do a chromatic run of the sawtooth. You can see all the keys are working. That was the sawtooth. Sounds like this. If you filter it, with a bit of resonance. That's the low pass filter. On that same sawtooth, we're going to test the other filters. This is now the band pass filter. It's a pretty good sounding sawtooth. You can there's an ultra saw control on the sawtooth. Which is controlled by LFO2, so that shows that LFO2 works. The default routing is LFO2 to the ultrasaw amount for the sawtooth wave. So with different LFO shapes. The LFOs can be synced to the arpeggiator and sequencer, of course. We are going to now try the square wave. Oh yeah, so we were on band pass just now for, I didn't put it back to low pass, that's why we're having strange behavior in that range for the, but that's the square wave. It's, that's more like it. We lost the volume because of the faulty input of this amplifier. Anyway, that's the square wave with the filter halfway up. More resonance. I'm filtering it with the mod wheel, and this is the mod wheel, the modulation amount, which is used, which is controlled by this attenuator here. You've got two attenuators. While we're talking about attenuators, one of them goes to the drone amp, so you can create a droning amp. It'll play the last note. you play it, you can use this AD envelope, which is normally, we'll also talk about that right now. The AD envelope is normally routed to the amp section, to the amplitude modulation on the amp, and the ADSR is defaulted normaled to the filter frequency modulation, which is this knob here. So what I've done here is, just because I'm more used to using an ADSR for the volume, and I don't mind using the AD for the filters, I've inverted, which is a setting I've used quite a lot. In the patch bay, I've inverted. Basically, the ADSR is going to the amp, and the AD is now going to the filter, which is the contrary, the opposite of the default routing. So we're still on a square wave. I'm not going to try all the filters, but for example, this is band pass. Notch, high pass, band pass, low pass. So just quickly, the way this, we're only using one oscillator at a time for right now. So there are two oscillators in the synth. It's a mono synth, semi-modular mono synth, a bit comparable to the Moog grandmother, although it costs a lot less money and sounds different, but a lot of the options at the end of there are similar because they are both unapologetically mono synth with just a couple of oscillators plus noise. Now, the first oscillator, you can mix, on the first oscillator, you can mix the three waveforms, but I'll demonstrate each of the waveforms by themselves, and you can mix in some noise. The noise, by the way, sounds like this. Okay, so that's the noise on this synthesizer, which you can mix with any of the waves. We've heard this sawtooth, we've heard the square, we've heard, we're going to now test the triangle. This is where I won't show the filter. But before I do that, I want to say that this synth is famous, hence its name, the Arturia Minibrute. It's famous for harsh sounds. So if you, it warms up considerably after the halfway point on the mixer. So you can get some soft sounds by sticking, even if you're mixing several waves together, by sticking to the lower half of the mixer, and you will still have plenty of volume at the master volume. I mean, the master volume is like at 11 o'clock right now. And you can clearly hear as you turn up the volume, it changes the tone as well as the volume. So that's that could be useful if you want a warmer sound or a more distorted sound. Speaking of distortion, the synth has its own distortion, which is this brute factor. Which I don't really use that much. Yeah, it's got the drone that we talked about before, the plus 5 volt. You can control the volume of that. You can build some droning things. You can also obviously do drones using the arpeggiator and hold. Yeah, so the resonance we've heard, the filter we've heard the 4 different modes of the filter, which is notch, HP, high pass, band pass, and low pass. we've talked about how the default envelopes, there's an ADSR and an AD envelope. That AD envelope, by the way, can loop, so you can turn it into an LFO. So on the filter, it sounds like this. That's really quite nice. With a gate and a trigger mode, and a looping mode or not. So if you want the AD envelope to affect, you can do this on the amp or on the filter, right? Depending on how you have it routed in the patch bay. Let's talk about the beautiful triangle wave on the synthesizer, which has its own modulation called the metal mod, I believe. It's called the metalizer. So it makes it sound more metallic, and the metal mod is like. Metal mod is by default controlled by velocity. By the way, so the pulse wave, the saw wave has an ultra saw modulation. This was the glide, by the way, that we're hearing. So that's glide right there. The synth can, going back to the triangle wave. We've shown the metalizer and the metal mod. The noise we've already shown. It's got an external in, which you can patch in an external signal through the patch bay. And then we get into oscillator 2, which is really a strong point of the interface of this synth. First of all, because it provides a nice sine wave. So whilst this sine wave, we can take it to low octaves if you like sub bass. Amazing sub bass, and if you add like maybe some triangle. Anyway, it's nice with just the sine, but you can experiment with that and with the filter. The filter will obviously not affect the sine wave so much. So the second oscillator can also be sawtooth or a square, and it can be tuned over a 2-octave fine range, over an all octaves range, which is just huge. I don't know how many octaves it is, but it's a lot of octaves up and down. Okay, and then it's got an LFO, low frequency oscillator, which comes in useful when you're using it for syncing to the first oscillator and to do some frequency modulation, which you can do. You can sync the two oscillators using this patch bay, going to from the VCO2 out into the sync in of VCO1, so you can get those famous sync sounds. Then I can't demonstrate everything, but just to demonstrate what happens when you're using two oscillators at the same time, I like to use a lead based on flute, on triangle, with sometimes a little bit of sub oscillator, so you can. So it became your sub oscillator, right? The second oscillator became a sub oscillator. You just beef it up. So that's a sine wave. That's the way it sounds with a sine wave. That's the way it sounds with a saw wave. Then you can also do a square wave. The square wave with a square wave sub. As much sub as you want. And you can also tune it, of course, to let's stick to square for both oscillators. You can tune it to intervals above. Like a fifth, which is pretty common. Speaking of fifth, I've got the pitch wheel tuned to a fifth right now. One thing I love about this synth is it has a beautiful dedicated bend range knob from 1 semitone to 12 semitones, so all the way to an octave. And I usually keep it around 5 or 2 semitones because I find that's most playable. But it's always there, and it always relates to the pitch wheel, and it's really quite convenient. I usually use the personally, but you can reroute that, of course, in many ways using the patch bay and some switches we'll see right now. I use I typically use the mod wheel to modulate the filter, and manually as I play with the pitch wheel. And yeah, so you can do all manner of two oscillator sounds and get some sounds that you like. The envelopes are quite snappy. So for example, if you like that sub-bass sound, that's a snappy or less snappy. Envelope, the release, nothing strange about that. Okay, so that's the oscillators, and we've seen the filter. The filter has frequency modulation. We said the ADSR was routed to the filter. So this, the ADSR, sorry, the AD envelope is routed to the filter now. So If we want this frequency modulation can be positive or negative, and so that means it was positive. If you have a wah pedal in which you can invert the polarity, that's exactly what that is. And the resonance, again, we're on the. By the way, we're using. We're just using. Let's just use a single sine wave, sawtooth wave oscillator here to listen to the resonance of it. Resonance is halfway up. No resonance. Resonance halfway up. Resonance quite high. Right, so now let's go to the oh yeah, the resonance modulation, by the way, is controlled by default to by LFO1. That's how that sounds. I don't really know how to control that. It's got negative and positive as well. I mean, I have done cool things with it in the past, but it's been so long. Not really the kind of sounds I use. Sorry if a lot of this doesn't sound musical. I didn't really prepare any of this demo. So this arpeggiator is really cool. There's two things I don't like about it. It doesn't have an octave button. So the way you do octaves on this is by putting it on hold. Or no, not putting it on hold, sorry. Let's switch it to arpeggiator, do an arpeggio. Okay, so you play for the arpeggio. So if you wanted to do more octaves, you'd have to switch the octave here, keep at least one note held down, and then add. So then if you put hold on, that should hold your arpeggiator. Right. Okay. Hold. So you have the different usual modes. So that was the other thing I talked about that I didn't really like, is that the the subdivisions are 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, and 1/32, and then 1/4 triplet, 1/8 triplet, etc. Instead of them being alternate, non-triplet and triplet, which allows you to go faster and slower with this button. It should be and change from triplet feel to non-triplet feel at a relatively close speed. That's just the way they're organized here. The rate button, of course, the LFOs can be synced to the rate. Let's go to a sequencer. The sequencer has 8 sequences in memory. Subdivisions work. The gate works on both the sequencer and to the sequencer and demonstrate the swing. Swing has 11 settings from off to pretty extreme. So I usually use this synth with a delay pedal and a reverb, but this demonstration is without either or any effect. I haven't shown really musical things, but that's pretty much it. Also, the wheel or the aftertouch can control the mod. So if we have a nice sine wave, controlling the filter with the wheel, or we can control it with the aftertouch. And this is the attenuator that will control the amount of modulation in either case. Also, the mod destination can alternatively go to the LFO to LFO1. To LFO1 vibrato, which means that in this case it says the vibrato amount of LFO1. That's being affected if we've got this switch on. You have a retrig, either legato, LFO1, or LFO2 modes, also accessible from the keyboard, and you can of course enter your sequences live or step by step. That's about it for the tour of this synthesizer, which is on sale in Barcelona. It comes with its box, and it's the manual can be downloaded online, but it comes with a cookbook of interesting patches. Last ones I tried, I'm not going to do it now, but last ones I tried were there was an acid patch, which was kind of interesting, and a drone patch, which was also interesting for creating drones. And there are, with each patch, there are instructions to tell you what knobs are good to play with, and also the patch examples are really good to learn some of the possibilities of the patch bay that you might not have thought about. And that's it for the review of the original Duscholux, aka Arturia Minibrute 2, on sale in Barcelona for €390.